Everybody can see me, right? Can you see? I'm kind of low. I'm not usually this low.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Megan Ziegenfuss. I'm the community coordinator for the Kingston City School District, as well as a facilitator of the Kingston Parent Group, who is serving as our sponsor for the evening. I'd like to take this time to thank everybody for coming, thank our candidates, and as well as introduce our moderator for the evening, Yolanda Jansen, from the League of Women Voters of Mid-Hudson Region. And I'd also like to introduce Chris Henning, who will be serving as our timekeeper for the evening. So without further ado, I'll give it to you.
Good evening. We're going to go for 90 minutes. Unless we've answered all the questions, and then we will leave earlier than 8 o'clock. So 6:30 starting time, 90 minutes, intended to end by 8 p.m. The candidates will each have 3 minutes to make their opening statements. I do have to inform you that Ms. Priscilla Lowe had a family situation that came up, and for that reason, she was not able to be here tonight. She is still committed to running for the position. This was a last-minute emergency. Once every candidate has given their 3-minute opening remarks, I will ask one of the questions that has been submitted by the audience. If you have a question that you have filled out on these pieces of paper, give it to one of the ladies walking around with pencils and stacks, and they will bring it to the front. Or if you can't find them, bring it here to Ajamu, who will then get them up to me. At 10 minutes to 8, if we haven't run out of questions, we will give everybody an opportunity to make a 2-minute closing remark. No filming, other than somebody who is officially filming the entire proceeding with no editing for, I believe some official filming is taking place, but no cell phone videotaping of pieces of a proceeding to be shared partially, because that would give an inaccurate, incomplete picture of tonight's proceedings. So you're not allowed to do that, and please don't do that. Other than that, thank you for coming, and we will start with the gentleman all the way on my right, Reverend James Childs, 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm seeking another term on the Kingston City School District Board of Education because we have unfinished business. Thank you. I'm sorry. Good evening.
Yes, that sounds much better.
I'm seeking another term on the Kingston City School District Board of Education because we have unfinished business, which must be completed to continue to enhance our educational opportunities for all of our students. As a board, we have committed to providing the best education possible for our children at a cost affordable to our community. We have worked as a team, the board, the superintendent, teachers, and staff, and we have had amazing accomplishments. The reason for these accomplishments is that no one cares who gets the credit. It's all about the children. So I would like to continue the teamwork. Our community approved the Second Century KHS project, and working together, this project is under budget and ahead of schedule. Our students and teachers will occupy the completed east and west educational wings, as well as the field house in September of 2017. I don't know, I'm very delighted and excited about the idea of our students and teachers going into a new facility that will certainly enhance teaching and learning. I'm seeking another term, as I said, on the board so that we can continue to work as a team to implement the revised code of conduct. Suspending kids from school does not change behavior. Definitely, it impacts their education negatively. I believe that it also can lead very easily to the school-to-prison pipeline. So we as a board, working with our teachers, students, parents, and community, will be giving priority to restorative practices rather than punitive. This will enhance our educational opportunity for all our students and will lead to increased graduation rates. When I first ran for the board, one of the concerns that I had was that there was an achievement gap between the black students of color, and their white counterparts. I'm glad to say that our board, as we have worked together with the administration, we have seen evidence of the closing of that gap. 48% graduation rate was what it was then. It's now in the mid-70s for African Americans. So as I try to run for the board and to, again, help to accomplish the projects that we have started, I'm excited about the possibility. Finally, one of the things that I would hope is that the Mahar project will be voted on and approved by our community, and if so, I think that will be another great step for us, because we know that pre-K opportunities are not available to all of the kids before, and now we'll be able to service those children that are in most need. And so we're
Thank you.
looking.
Reverend Childs, Mr. Lamb.
Good evening. I would like to first thank the District Parents Group for sponsoring tonight's Meet the Candidate Night. The current board and administration have done fabulous work on raising the graduation rate and the Second Century project. That being said, there are many issues that are being let go and presented to you as zero impact on the taxpayer. You, the taxpayer, are being asked to approve 2 referendums on the current ballot. 1, the Mahar project. Offices are not aidable from the state. If we build classrooms, only the parts that service the students is aidable. The Board of Ed has not passed said preschool program that is to go into Mahar, so I would question if any of this is aidable. We will need to lease back Crown Street for at least 24 months. At what cost? 2, the middle school bus distance. The Board of Ed is well aware that the district has been illegally busing students in grades 7 and 8, and to avoid busing 9 to 12 students is putting this up for approval over 20 years after fact. In today's dangerous world, all students should be bused. This would cost less than $500,000, including the middle school students, figure given by Dr. Patalino at a coffee and conversation. Busing all students will get students to school in bad weather, and attendance has direct correlation with graduation rate. The Board of Ed has been poor stewards of what the community has given them. Use the capital improvement money to do just that. Replace windows, make our buildings more energy efficient, fix broken seats in auditoriums, etc. These affect our students and faculty. The win will be twofold. Aidable funding, so 10 million becomes 16, netting more work and bang for the buck, and energy cost savings. This money is not zero impact. It's money not spent that was collected from you, the taxpayer. You have already felt the impact. Yes, we need to do something about central office. Our district is decreasing at roughly 125 students per year according to the BEDS forms. Take care of the buildings currently in use and you will be able to move into one of them before you need to spend said $3 million on Crown Street. If you have a house which is falling down, you don't put an addition on it to fix the house. Why are we not at Miller tonight? This event has been held there for decades. Miller is more handicap accessible, parking is better, no stairs could B, the board is embarrassed in the condition of this building. I know as a taxpayer, I'm angry with the condition of this building. I will also fight for equitable funding and a different way of funding education at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Nora, Ms. Shearer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to extend my thanks to the Kingston Parent Group for arranging this evening's Meet the Candidates Night, to the district for providing the venue and the equipment, and to League of Women Voters for providing the moderator and timekeeper. My name is Nora Shearer, and many of you know me. If you do, you know that I'm deeply committed to public education. On the chance that you don't, allow me to just tell you a little bit about myself. I've spent my entire adult life working in this district. First as a teacher, then as a member of the Board of Education. In each of those roles, striving for excellence and fostering increased student achievement. I taught for 38 years in Kingston City District, working in elementary, middle, and finally, Kingston High School for the last 2 decades plus. My husband, Wendell, and I retired in 2010 because of his failing health, but prior to that, we were among the early proponents of special education, general education, co-teaching teams. We worked together for over 20 years, preparing hundreds of students for first the Regents competency test and then the English Language Arts Regents exams. I'm especially proud to say that together, Wendell and I also raised 3 wonderful children of our own. Our children all attended district schools, got an excellent education, and graduated in the early 2000s. I know that Wendell was proud that I continued to advocate for students in my service on the board, and I know that if he were still here, he would be proud that I'm seeking to continue to do so. I'm currently finishing my 2nd term in the Kingston City School District Board of Education, and I've been privileged to serve as board president for the past 3 years and vice president for the 2 years prior to that. In my 2 terms on the board, I've served on a number of committees. Currently, I'm serving on the Audit and Finance Committee and the Facilities Committee, as facilitator of the Facilities Committee. In addition, I serve on the steering committee for the Kingston High School capital project with Reverend Childs. On every particular committee that I've served on, I've served with people, district personnel, teachers, staff, administrators, and fellow colleagues on the board who are as committed to continuous improvement in Kingston City Schools as I am. In the past 6 years on the board, I've been one member of a team that has selected a new superintendent, repurposed 2 elementary buildings, brought in 5 budgets at or under the allowable increase in the tax levy, committed to small class sizes in grades kindergarten through 2, and oversaw approximately $14 million in improvements, repairs, and replacements in our district buildings by utilizing capital reserve and maximized state aid with no impact to the taxpayers. We have supported a P-TECH High School, a capital project at Kingston High School that's progressing well, a bit ahead of schedule and under budget. We've seen several schools removed from the state focus list and have monitored an increase in graduation rates across the board in all subgroups. Is there room for improvement? Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Shearer. Mr. Spicer.
Good evening, everyone.
You're now you're on.
We start the time. Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Spicer, and I'm here because we are wholly out of time. New York State school boards cannot run any longer with leadership that is not completely in touch with the people they serve. As a teacher for 15 years, I have taught elementary and middle school children. I have taught regular and special education. I've taught children who speak almost every language and worked with families of dozens of cultures. I have taught rural and inner city children. As a principal for 15 years, I'm the only person who has ever been principal of both Hudson, New York's high school and their pre-K to 2 primary school. I know how educational systems work because I run them. I know how to work with diverse groups of people because I have 30 years of experience doing it. But Kingston City School District, as I said, I'm running because we are wholly out of time. Do you all know what H.R. 610 is? Anybody? First of all, a bill is a law. A bill that is going to become a law is a resolution first. House Resolution 610 in the Congress right now, put forth by Stephen King in January, proposes to turn all federal funds to public elementary schools and high schools into vouchers, ending all federal per pupil funding equations to public schools, and repeals federal education nutritional standards. If this resolution becomes a bill and then law, this is the end of public education as we know it and dismantle school nutrition standards. For all the teachers here tonight, we know the challenges of teaching hungry children, and instead of federal matching funds, what in the name of heaven is Kingston going to do with a voucher? We need money, not a coupon. Second, Kingston City School District, you know Cuomo and the state legislature owe your district $10 million. Now, I want everyone to suppose how many more reading programs, after-school programs, summer programs, teacher and teacher trainers, Promethean boards, and virtual field trips to Beijing or Mars we could get with $10 million. Now, suppose you elect a 27-year district resident board member who made it his business to call on Senator Amador every day until we get that money. Imagine selecting a school board member who would reach out purposefully to all of our stakeholders to solve our problems quicker with solutions the majority of our collective could support. Imagine electing a school board member who knows a good deal about educational issues from all levels and from experience. I need you to imagine electing Stephen Spicer to your school board and then join me to realize all the rest of these goals. Lastly, to all the teachers who are here tonight, happy Teacher Appreciation Day, and thank you for inviting me to your Meet the Candidates night.
Your first question, and I will ask you to answer them in the reverse order that you just did so I will start with Mr. Spicer. And the question is, what is the #1 objective for the Kingston school system in the next school board term? #1, Mr. Spicer.
I would say, as I said in my opening statement, the entire school board has got to get focused on putting political pressure on our local officials to make sure we get our share of that $10 million. Because how many of you understand foundation aid, what the foundation aid issue was? Foundation aid is an equation that says how much the state owes every child per pupil funding. Well, the state was taken to court because they didn't do it. And they owe districts all around the state a lot of money. Cuomo and the state Senate have a fix for this problem. The equation says they owe Kingston $10 million. Here's the solution. Change the equation. Now we don't owe you $10 million. Your state officials have to put a stop to that and pay us the money they owe us. When we talk about reducing taxes to provide more money for reducing taxes in our school district,
Mr. Spicer.
that $10 million will help.
Nora Shearer, Mrs. Shearer.
Okay, I think that our primary focus has to be to continue the course of improvement that we have started across the board. The graduation rate has gone up to 83%. I understand it may be slightly higher overall. We still have subgroups that need to be targeted, and we're putting initiatives in place to do that. I, of course, would like to see the Mahar project come to pass. It is the right way to think about giving aid, assistance, a leg up, and a good start to 4-year-olds who formerly were not served in our other pre-K programs in the district. So I think that taking that human factor, the money that would be spent is well worth it. And we will still have quite a bit of money in the reserves to go ahead with the next 5-year capital improvement project.
Thank you, Mrs. Shearer. Mr. Herbert Lamb.
Graduation rate would probably be the thing, and I will also agree with Nora that the preschool is our route to graduation rate. All research shows that if we can get the students early and get them learning early, that they will succeed through school. Keeping them from being retained in grade level is also another important part of that. As we move forward with that, we have space in buildings currently. We have space at George Washington. When I taught at George Washington, there were 650 students there. There's plenty of room for putting more pre-K in our current buildings instead of spending $4.3 million for that.
Yes, Reverend Childs?
I think that one of the most important things we can do is to continue the many programs that we've started to increase our students' educational opportunities, and so that their graduation rate will continue to improve. I also think it's important that we do all of that in a way that will be efficient cost-wise for our community. And I believe that the plans that we have put together does just that. I think it's so important for the preschool program. We know that that's needed by our students, and as a result, I think that in putting together the preschool program, we will be able to help children to improve and increase their graduation rates again.
Thank you. The next question, starting with Reverend Childs. What do you think can be done to improve attendance?
Attendance, of course, is very important. If children are not in school, then they can't learn. I think that one of the things that needs to be done is to make sure that the children who are in school are not suspended and put out of school. And we can do that by changing our code of conduct, which we have done, and by implementing that code of conduct. It will help us so that we can help children so that they will understand their behavior, why they're doing it, and also to keep them in school. Also, I think that as we make school more exciting for children, they will want to come. And so we've got to continue the programs that we have started that makes children want to come and learn.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb?
First thing I would do to increase attendance at the high school level is universal busing. If you get a student to school, they will learn. I can teach any student you put in my classroom, but if they are not there, I cannot teach them. Universal busing would mean that students that after the blizzard wouldn't have to cross the street between my house and school 18 times not at a crosswalk. I counted how many unshoveled sidewalks there were for the shortest group for my daughter to get here, the 1.7 miles. Restorative justice would also be a very important part, and not retaining students and making sure that we're not doing punitive discipline. Hands-on learning and upgrading our technology in this district would be a great way, because you will start excitement of students to come to school. You need to make school a place where students will want to come, and I will be honest with you, when this high school is done, I believe that this will be a place that students want to come.
Mrs. Shearer?
Okay, this is kind of a strange question for me. I headed up the district attendance committee for several years. I believe that you have to make school a welcoming place. Restorative justice will go a ways towards that. I think that some of the initiatives that have been started by this administration and supported by the board in terms of teaching with empathy in mind will also go a long way. We are working on actively engaging students. We've broken down the student population at the high school into grade level academies, and the guidance counselors and the APs will stay with the students, and they'll get to know that smaller number of students. I think it's important that every student feel known, feel welcome. I think that the staff here will do their very best to get them engaged in something, because we do know that students are engaged in extracurricular activities and in their studies are kids who are anxious to come to school. I don't know if busing alone is going to bring the students to school, because we have school buses.
Thank you, Mrs. Shearer.
Yes.
Mr. Spicer? Attendance.
There are a number of things we can do to improve attendance in the district. One is at the early ages, at pre-K levels, when we first get the parents in, because I don't know if you guys know it, but your largest PTA is always going to be in your elementary schools. And the younger the children are, the larger your PTA is, because those parents want to get involved right away. So when you want to have meetings with those parents, let them know right away how important attendance is, and give them the attendance statistics. Children who attend, it sounds kind of silly, but children who attend more regularly actually have a higher graduation rate already. Also, we want to have constant home communication with the parents. We also want to review specific attendance data by demographics. You want to know exactly who isn't coming to school, where they live, so that you can tailor make specific attendance strategies for that particular group. Large district-wide, non-specific attendance strategies don't work. You have to address it. Suppose you have a whole population, once you do your demographics up, time's up. Children who only speak Spanish. Maybe you want to send notes home to those particular parents in Spanish to get them to come to school.
I've just been corrected in my sequencing. So instead of going from left to right, we're going to actually have somebody else be the first one to answer for the next question. So I'm going to improve my moderating technique. The next question is, can each candidate state what ideas they may have to reduce or hold the budget cost? And the first person to answer will be Mr. Lamb. And then after Mr. Lamb, it will be Mrs. Shearer.
To hold budget costs, one thing we have to do is fight for other funding and other ways of funding education. To hold budget costs, we also need to look at where we are spending our dollars. We are still paying for the last edition on the Mahar School in 1996. Yet we're not using that school, and it needs $4.3 million of repair. To hold budget down, we should be asking central office the same thing that they've been asking from the teachers as a concession in their health insurance. The teachers gave a concession in their health insurance when they took the plan that they currently have, because it is based on a percentage of what the administrator's health care plan costs. Therefore, they've already made their concessions.
Mrs. Shearer.
Okay, I think this particular board and administration have done a very good job. As a matter of fact, if you recall, in budgeting, we have kept it at or under the allowable tax levy for the last 5 years. The comptroller rated our district as having no fiscal stress. And in contrast to many other districts around us, the money's been managed very well. In addition to that, the last board meeting, we also hired an outside group to come in and evaluate programs that we have. I'm sure they will be bringing data back to us and letting us know where we can realize some cost efficiencies. I think we've done a good job.
Thank you. Mr. Spicer.
I attended the board meetings where they talked about the budget. The meeting was very impressive. The district and the district leadership have a tight reins on the budget and the spending right now. Now, of course, everyone would love it if we lowered taxes. But I would say your budget is pretty tight already, which is why I'm going to lead into my favorite topic is get that money. You want to lower taxes and you want to provide the support that your children need. Get that $10 million.
Thank you, Reverend Childs.
Well, I think we have a very efficient administration, and that the budget that was put forth was one that was done thoughtfully with the community in mind as to what they're able to afford. And we've tried and have cut everywhere that we can, but the community lets us know that they do not want to see us cut programs, they don't want us to cut music programs or sports, etc. And so we've kept all of our programs intact that are necessary for the education of our children, and at the same time we've kept the levy low so that we will not overgo the levy. So I think that we are efficient, we're always looking for how we can do things better, but I think that we have a good budget.
The next question, we're starting with Mrs. Shearer, is what do you think the Kingston School District what role do you think the Kingston School District should play in supporting and protecting undocumented students? Mrs. Shearer.
Okay, well, this is certainly a touchy topic. The city of Kingston is a sanctuary city, as we know. Kingston District will, cooperate with the officials if they have an active warrant, but that's the law. We will not, we will protect the students while they are at school, certainly, and no one would take a student out of a building without a warrant. As much as I'd like to say it will never happen, that a student would be subjected to the very, very sad thing of losing a parent, I can say that the city and this district will protect them while observing the law. It would only be an active criminal warrant that would result in, a parent being arrested and the student
Thank you,
being
Mrs.
convicted.
Sheeran. Mr. Spicer.
The issue is loaded because it's emotional. It's an emotional issue in communities across the nation. But the issue for schools is not emotional, it's legal. The INS, the Immigration and Naturalization Service, can't come to a school and arrest any child or pull any child out regardless of their status. They can't do it on school property. And I think the role of the school district is to make sure that our children know that they're safe and that and while they're at school, they're going to be taken care of just like any other child in the United States.
Reverend Childs.
Well, I think it's very important that we realize that those children who are undocumented are going through a time of great fear and trepidation because they don't know what's going to happen to them tomorrow or the next day. And I think at the school, we've got to be able to help these children be sensitive to their concerns and their needs and to let them know that they are protected. As Mr. Spicer said, it's the law, and they can't just come in and take children out, and we're going to honor that law. And I think it's important that we do protect those children so that they know that they can have a sense of peace of mind and an opportunity to learn.
Mr. Lamb.
I honestly agree with all three of them, and I would go one step farther. We would not be putting that child on a bus to go home without contacting a parent and having the student wait for the parent to arrive, because we put them on a bus or make them walk home, they're once again unsafe from that situation. And again, a child is a child. They're not the illegal. It's the parent that is the illegal, and we need to protect our children that are here.
Thank you. The next question, starting with Mr. Spicer. How do you feel about implementing a whole child progressive policy of education with more play in the younger grades and holistic project-based learning in the older grades?
It's my dream. It only makes sense, and it is the future, to have, first of all, project-based education in the lower grades, as opposed to Pearson testing, which gives you no information and doesn't drive instruction. Project-based education produces the final product, which teaches children how to present and how to produce some sort of final project related to the education that they're getting. What was the first part about the younger grades?
With more play in the younger grades and holistic project-based learning in the older grades.
I am a pre-K to second grade principal right now. I understand the educational, social, emotional value of play. It needs to continue. It also needs never to be challenged. It doesn't make sense. Children cannot learn and grow if they can't play. That doesn't make any sense.
Reverend Childs.
Well, obviously, I think that it's natural for children to play, and we need to provide an opportunity for them to be able to have that playtime, some of which we do now, of course. But also, I think that it's important in our society that we recognize that children learn a little faster today than they perhaps did when I was coming along. The knowledge that they're able to acquire, even as 4, 5, 6 years old, is absolutely amazing. So I believe that that's important that they continue to get their education as well as the play. And as far as the holistic project-based learning, I think that's tremendous. I think that'll make many children want to stay in school, because I think project-based learning is the direction that we need to be going in.
Mr. Lamb.
Play needs to be balanced with learning. We need to also provide the space for that play to take place at school. As far as the project-based learning, I have very mixed emotions on that because I was a product of that, of the 1970s in the district I went to, and I honestly believe that once we get to that level, yes, a project for the final outcome of a student is a good way to go. However, I do not think that all learning that takes place in the classroom, we need to get through the basics so that the student can get out and function in a regular world.
Mrs. Shearer.
I believe in both, actually. More play. I think with the newly revised standards that are up for review now at the state level, there is more play encouraged in kindergarten through second grade, and I'm very glad to see that. It's a result of people working very, very hard, teachers and parents working hard and standing their ground. Of course, pre-K is a perfect place for play, and a language-rich environment, a lot of storytelling. Project-based learning, I've believed in for a long time, and I have seen it work tremendously well when you're doing cross-subject project-based learning and you're actually able to engage students maybe in social studies and English, or English and music, or music and art at the same time. I think that the kids find it exciting and engaging, and they learn a lot because they are engaged.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Reverend Childs, and then we'll go to Mr. Spicer. We'll take it in that order. What plans do you have for increasing diversity of staff in order to better match the diverse population of students? Reverend Childs.
I think that's a great question. Certainly in our school, that's an area that we have to focus on and have already started putting some attention to. I think that one of the ways that we can increase the diversity in our school is to go to colleges, of course, and try to recruit some minorities to come to the area. But I think that the most important way that we can do it is to grow our own. And one of the programs that has been initiated in the school district is Today's Student, Tomorrow's Teachers. And I think that will help to add the number of teachers in our district. And so I think that that's something that we have to continue to work on. It's going to take a while to make it happen, but we think it's important because we got a diverse group of children and we need diversity in the administration and teachers.
Thank you. Mr. Spicer.
I attended the wonderful presentation that was done at your school board all about all of your efforts to increase diversity in the district. I actually took all the information back to Hudson and made a presentation to the Hudson City School Board based on all, I made a whole packet based on all the things you said at your last meeting, including Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers, which is a wonderful program to mentor children of color, so that, and then also support them in college so that they can come back and be teachers in their home community, which you're doing, which is outstanding. I also think a district, if you're going to increase diversity, you need to set diversity goals, very specific diversity goals, which would lead you only to increase the number of diversity candidates when you interview for positions. So you would say, we're going to interview 10 music teachers, well, 2 of them have to be a person of color. That will increase your chances of having, of increasing your diversity teaching population.
Mrs. Shearer.
As has already been stated by Reverend Childs, I think the initiative that was started, Today's Students, Tomorrow's Teachers, is a step in the right direction. I know this is something that is concerned not only Kingston City Schools, but many small city districts, because we do have diverse population. Here we have, rural and urban, and we have students of color, and we do not reflect that in our staff. I know it's hard to attract candidates to a smaller district where maybe they would have more financial opportunities than a larger one, and I think Reverend Childs is right. It's a good idea to grow our own. And I think if we're doing a good job, we're being sensitive to that, and the new school opening up, engaging the students, we may see our own students returning to do that, to actually teach in our district. And that's a dream that I have. I would love to see that happen.
Mr. Lamb?
I also was at the board meeting that today's students, or tomorrow's teachers was presented, and it is a wonderful program. I don't know, I believe that is our real way of doing this. I don't know that what is here for people of other races and ethnicities is what they're looking for, and I think it's partially a community problem as well as a district problem. I think when we have more industry here that will have stuff for their spouses and for bringing others into this community, it will help. And I think the high school project will help bring industry, which will help bring people of other races to our district.
Thank you. The next question, starting with Mr. Lamb. The research shows that adolescents perform better with a later start school day. Is this something you would consider for Kingston?
I'll be honest with you, I taught junior high for 27 of my 35 years, and you're preaching to the choir. I understand that that's what it says, but I will also explain to you that we are a bus-driven society. We are also a society that is driven by one single parent families, and the older siblings need to be home, unfortunately, to take care of younger siblings when they get off the bus. We did that in Newburgh for 1 year. We switched the times of the middle schools and the high school, and we had sports issues with most of the districts that we were doing, and sports and busing drove that. I would absolutely support trying it, but I think we need to come up with some other priorities first before that will take effect.
Reverend Childs, the same question.
Sort of interesting, one of our board members have brought that up on different occasions, that is a fact. And we, at this point, I don't know exactly how we would make it happen, but it's certainly something that I think that we should consider and see whether it's feasible. There are a lot of difficulties surrounding making that happen, but it's something that we should continue to take a look at.
Mr. Spicer?
Educationally, it has its merits. It sure does. I've seen programs that have varying school times, and they have benefits. Every district who tries it, every district who wants to try it, needs to really flesh out the numbers. The devil is in the details, because how you do something like that could have expanding costs, and all your attempts to try to get off the ground could fight you. So if you're going to try something like that, I would say you want to go slow. You really want to look at other school districts that do it. You want to find out districts that have success with it, and then put those ideas into practice. But you want to take your time with something like that.
Mrs. Shearer?
I would agree with the other people on the panel. It is something that research indicates would improve performance. It would reduce the number of accidents that students who are driving to school would have, because try as you might, it's very difficult to get a 14-year-old to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. They're usually up half the night. I think that it would contribute to higher student achievement for some students. At the same time, it's going to impact athletic conferences, busing times, and here in the Northeast with daylight savings time, if we flip the busing times, we're going to have the little ones out very early in the morning when it's very, very dark on the roads. And I think all those things need to be taken into consideration in addition to any additional costs. Now, I would not be adverse to the idea of having maybe staggered beginning times for some of the students who wish that.
Thank you. The next question, starting with Mrs. Shearer. Children who need special education services are not having all their IEP and 504 plans being met. What plan does the district have in place to fix this problem? Staffing, timing? Thank you. Mrs. Shearer.
Well, again, right now the district has just hired a group called Futures to evaluate what's going on in the district, and special education is certainly going to be taken a look at. I know that the IEPs are legal documents and they need to be honored. I taught special ed for a very long time, for decades, and it is It's not conscionable when people's IEPs are not followed. So if there is not a need for those services, then there certainly should have to be a conference and a discussion and data to prove that there is not a need. If there is a need, they need to be delivered.
Mr. Spicer, same question.
Nora is correct. IEP and 504 documents are legal documents. They also have written into them specific review dates inside the documents which cannot be avoided or discarded. They have to be reviewed when the time comes up. If 504s and IEP documents are not being reviewed and not being enforced, or services are not being provided that are called for in the documents, we need to examine why that is. Is someone not reviewing the document? Are the services that are required for in the document not being provided for, and why? Are there services the district needs to bring on as outside consultants to make sure that these children receive their services? All the answers to why these services are not being provided are in the documents and need to be reviewed and then enforced.
Reverend Childs?
Well, I think that with special education, first of all, I think that we need to consider and look very closely at the children that are being labeled as needing special ed, so that we can cut down on the number that are in special ed. But when we have a IEP of 504, I think that we've got to make sure that we enforce what the law is and make sure the children get what they need. And I think within our school district, we are certainly reviewing that, and we're constantly working to try to improve all of our programs, whether it's special ed or general ed. And so I think that we're going to continue and should continue doing what we do to fulfill our obligation to give the best education to all of our children.
Mr. Lamb?
An IEP is a legal document, and so is a 504. Each student should have an advocate at the annual reviews. Many parents don't understand what the document, the IEP, actually says and what they're entitled to. If a student is not getting, and a parent believes a student is not getting those services, they should be able to call central office and have a meeting set up within 48 hours of requesting it, since the services are required by law and funding can be cut from the state and federal government.
Thank you. I'm sorry, did we get everybody in that question? I was momentarily distracted. The next question, starting with Mr. Spicer. For many years, there has been discussion about the discrepancies between our elementary schools and between... Is the mic working? It was working before, right?
Yeah.
It's not on.
I didn't touch it.
There you go.
Is it working now? No? All right. For many years, there has been discussion about the discrepancies between our elementary school and between our two middle schools. How do you think we can make education more equal within our district? Starting with Mr. Spicer.
Define the discrepancies, though?
This question did not define the discrepancies.
Then my general answer is discrepancies between elementary schools and the middle school.
I'm assuming you have multiple elementary schools,
Mm-hmm.
multiple middle schools.
Mm-hmm.
The writer of the question seems to think that some schools get the short end of the stick. I'm not from this district. I don't know if that is true.
I would say one of the things that I wanted to do in coming onto the board is to create a stakeholders roundtable that would meet at least 3 times a year with representatives of teachers, parents, administrators, and if they're old enough, older children, to discuss all of these issues that are happening at the ground level so that they reach the board level a lot quicker, so that we can solve these problems. If there are discrepancies, if there are concerns between the elementary schools and heading into the middle schools, these issues need to reach the board a lot quicker so that we can take on those problems.
Thank you. Mrs. Shearer.
Again, as Mr. Spicer said, I don't know exactly what discrepancies that particular questioner is referring to, but I have an issue with equal and equitable. It is important that opportunities in our middle schools be equitable, and the same is true of our elementary schools. Now, having said that, there are some elementary schools that have very, very active PTAs, PTOs, parent groups, and they provide a lot of additional opportunities for the students. There are others that perhaps don't. I think we need to look at that when we're looking at making things equitable. In terms of equity and facilities, I know the district has tried very, very hard to do that, and we have systematically been working through the schools to provide new playgrounds for the students. I don't know if you can ever truly be equal because of the nature of people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. Chair. Mr. Lamb.
Many times these discrepancies are caused by funding due to Title I, or buildings that have written grants that have been written by the building, or things that are supplied by PTAs or PTOs. I taught at Anna Devine for 9 years. My last year there, we wrote the grant for the computer system, so there were 5 in every classroom plus 1 on the teacher's desk that were all wired. And there was a lot of jealousy of that, but the teachers and the administration spent literally an entire summer and an entire year writing that grant and earning that for the building. I would say this board and this administration has done the best job to balance out the buildings by keeping their class sizes equal between all the buildings. Therefore, I really don't see where the discrepancies are.
Reverend Child.
Well, likewise, I don't know exactly what the discrepancies are, but I think that one of the things that was done when we redesigned the way that our school district does business, we have, by making 5th grade go into middle school, we fix it so that children will be 4 years in each area, whether it's elementary, 4-year in middle, 4 in high school. I think that gives a greater opportunity for parents to get involved, because in elementary, as we've said before, the parents seem to get more involved, and then in middle school they didn't. So this way I think that there's equity in the sense that more parents can get involved with their child's education and extra activities that they may be doing. Other than that, I don't know what the discrepancies
I'm going to use this microphone so that everybody can hear. Oh, you found another mic? Question 10.
Sorry about that.
Starting with Reverend Childs. The issue of bullying and harassment continue in this district. Building administrators have failed to respond until it has become a 911 level. What is your plan to protect our children? Reverend Childs.
We all recognize that bullying has perhaps increased, probably because of a lot of the network, internet type things that are happening. What we've done and are doing is to first of all certainly educate the children on the importance of their behavior and how they relate to one another. We have certainly had sessions that were held in which we discussed bullying and tried to determine the things that are happening so that we can get a handle upon it. Education is important all the way around, and I think that one of the things that we're certainly thinking about is that when it comes to bullying, if we can help children to learn how to talk to one another, how to share with one another, how to respect one another, how to love one another, we can cut down on some of those activities that are going on. So we're working, and we should continue to work to bring children together so that they will not.
Thank you. Mr. Lamb.
Bullying is increasing everywhere, and unfortunately, it is top down. They learn it from our government. If we want bullying to stop, we need parent support also. We need parents to keep their students off of Facebook and other social media. We need to educate parents on what children are doing. Children shouldn't be allowed free reign on the computer, or on the cell phone, or on the whatever other electronic devices you'd like to speak of. The district has taken a stand against bullying. There is a policy in place, and we need to make sure that policy is followed and enforced, because harassment will not be accepted in this district.
Mrs. Shearer.
Yes, bullying is a terrible problem, and electronic devices just exacerbate. I think it's important that we educate the kids from very early on how to be a good cyber citizen, because the notion that we're going to dial it back and nobody's going to have access to a computer is pie in the sky. But they do need to learn how to be good cyber citizens. In addition to that, I think it's important that we do hold forums for parents so that we can show them what it is their students have available to them. The fact that we supervised our kids and had them access computer only in the dining room, and I know that I'm a dinosaur, and I know my kids are adults now, but I think it's an important thing to do. Be aware of what your kids are doing with media. They know a lot more about it than many of us do. So I think it's important to continue an open dialogue. Sorry.
Mr. Spicer.
We are exactly 3 years away from the year 2020. Bullying has got to stop. And it's got to stop with a message from the school board on down that we will not tolerate that. Bullying creates unsafe schools. Children cannot learn if they're afraid. And it's not just the child who's being bullied that's afraid. The children who are watching the bully are also afraid. We have to have no tolerance in our district for bullying. We have to create safe schools. We have to understand, my time is up? We have to understand that technology has gotten beyond bullying to where children who would bully use very high-tech means to hurt other children. And we need to set a message from the board on down, not here, not my child, safe schools, safe for everyone. The answer is no.
The next question, and we will start with Mr. Lamb. There's actually two questions here. I'm going to read both of them. There's on the same topic. One, what would you do about the seeming overfunding of the Teachers' Health Fund? And two, do you think it is fair that the taxpayer continues to pay for medical insurance for retired teachers and their spouse?
I do not believe that there is an overfunding of the Kingston Trust Fund. I explained earlier that the Kingston Trust Fund is based on a percentage, which is based on what the wraparound medical was from Blue Cross Blue Shield when I taught in this district. I fought the Kingston Trust Fund and did not support it because my wife was very ill and we hit $1.5 million of health care, and Blue Cross Blue Shield covered 90% of that. I do understand that the teachers are not putting in a great percentage. However, they are accepting, their premium is less. I'm a retired teacher. I paid my union dues for 35 years, and I paid 4 more years of dues through the state of New York. I get the Empire Plan. As part of that, it is a necessity. Everyone should have health care.
Mrs. Shearer, same question.
I agree everyone should have health care, and I do not think that the Kingston Trust Fund is overfunded. I think looking at the increases in the other programs that are available to district employees, it's very reasonable. I had a very different experience with that health trust when my husband was dying, and I feel that it is part of the benefit package for the teachers. The teachers do a wonderful job, and I think that they deserve to have a benefit package. If they can negotiate it, the trust fund board can negotiate for the rates, and we can still, as a district, save money, and it is based on DHIC minus 5%, I believe, something like that. DHIC, what? I never remember the formula, that's why they have the financial people to figure it out. But it is based on what the market is now.
Mr.
Yes.
Spicer.
As funding is tight and taxes are taxing, it is always union benefits that look like an area that we can cut. I haven't seen that the healthcare fund is overfunded, but I will say this: it is contractual. Regardless of how we feel about it, what we would like, what we would wish, what we would wish, it is contractual and it has been negotiated on, and it exists.
Thank you. Reverend Childs.
Well, the KTF Trust Fund, I think they've done a good job in providing health care for their members. It is an area in which we do have to negotiate, and certainly as a board, we need to negotiate to try to get the best that we can through negotiation as far as the health is concerned. But I must say that also the KTF has on several occasions given back to the district in order to help and to assist us with budget. So I don't think they're overfunded, but I think that we can continue to negotiate and try to get a better deal for the district.
The next question, starting with Mrs. Shearer, this is also financial. Do you believe Kingston can support an average 3.5% budget increase year after year? Parentheses, a 3.5% increase for 5 more years would put us at $200 million budget. And it's a 2-part question, I might as well throw you the other part. Do you support a pre-K at Maher for approximately 120 children? I may be pronouncing Mayor incorrectly. Maher. Thank you.
Okay, let me answer the second part first. Yes, I do support the pre-K, because I think it's more than, we're looking at an opportunity for kids who are not currently involved in the pre-K programs that we have available. Right now we run a lottery for the kids who are in the Mahar and GW programs and our UPK partners. And for those students who do get into slots in those programs, the state does pay a certain amount.
Budget, you've got 30 seconds.
The budget in 30 seconds? Okay. The budget in 30 seconds. That's a very hard pill to swallow, 3.35% increase every year for the next several years. I think we've done a responsible job of holding the costs down with the current 2% or CPI cap on the tax levy. We have to continue to advocate for other ways to fund it.
You could go over a little,
Okay.
because this wasn't fair.
I think
Give
it's
her another 30 seconds. Everybody gets a minute and a half on this one.
okay. Well, currently I know the district is in the process of appealing the decision by the state about the aid, the equitable aid, and will continue to do so. At the same time, I really encourage anybody on board and also in the voting community to advocate for another way to fund our schools, because the property taxes certainly can't be absorbed by a community unless we get an influx of new employers into the district. And I'm hoping.
Okay, Mr. Spicer, you can finish that thought.
I am, as you know, I am a pre-K to 2 principal right now, so I understand the value of pre-K, and I will tell you, in Kingston, if some of you are thinking about a debate about whether to have pre-K or not, it's really not a debate, because you only have 2 ways to lift children up who begin your system in deficit. You only have 2 ways. You're either going to put them in pre-K or you're going to put them in special ed. Special ed later on in their career is far more expensive and less successful than pre-K. So I'm going to tell you a story. I'm doing kindergarten screening. The children who went through pre-K are much more advanced, as opposed to the child who appeared before me and I said, point to the pink block, and the child said, what's a block? You need pre-K. You have to have pre-K. That child needed pre-K, but they sat at home for 4 years and didn't get that piece of information. It will save you. As far as your budget is concerned, my same principle is my same principle. I'm very proud that this district has been under the tax levy. That makes everybody feel very comfortable to know we're under the tax levy. But also, my answer to the budget is, go get that money. Help me go get that money.
Thank you. Reverend Childs.
Well, let me do it in reverse also. Yes, I support the Mahar project, and again, I support it because if we educate our children and give them the best opportunity to get that education, not only do we save in the long run, in that we won't have to take care of them on social services or something, and also we keep them out of prison. So I think that giving kids a start, a head start is very important. Plus, the Mahar project is not costing the taxpayers any additional dollars. We have money that is already in the budget for building, which we can't use for any other purpose. So that money is going there. The sale of our Crown Street will also add to the cost of that project. And then we do get aid on that building project for those classrooms that we're putting in. So I am in favor of the Mahar project. As far as the 3.5 each year, I should say that it would be increased if we continue this way. I agree with many who have spoken here. It's important for us to advocate for a different way of funding our school districts. And I think that that's something we should go, and then I'll go along with Mr. Spicer too. We gotta go try to get that money that's owed to the school district over the years.
Mr. Lamb.
I've already said that I support the pre-K, but not at Mahar. The 3.35% depends on the aid that we get and how good we are at selling ourselves. Ballston Spa was a district that was in major disrepair, and they decided to build a new high school and middle school, and when that project was done, Global Foundries chose Malta, the Ballston Spa School District, as where they were going to place their headquarters. On top of that, they stated what was offered to the children of their employees in that school district with the new facilities was one of the reasons that they had agreed to come there. So we need to start selling ourselves on what a beautiful project is being done here and has been so well thought out. And we will bring more people and more business, and we'll bring more taxes in, therefore cutting the amount of money that we need to raise.
Oh, you have 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question here, and
If, based on something Mrs. Shearer said, there's maybe a misperception, and perhaps you can answer it, and we don't have to go down the whole line if this is an incorrect concept. Certain elementary schools continue to be overcrowded with high teacher-student ratios. Is the district willing to consider redistricting to even the numbers for student fairness?
Okay, part of the reason why some schools are experiencing crowding is special permissions. That's one thing that needs to be considered. A second reason is the board committed to small K-2 classes. And not to disagree with Mr. Lamb, but there are not a lot of empty classrooms because of that. Because we're confining the sizes of kindergarten through second grade classes to 22 or fewer, it has used up a lot of available rooms. I lost track of it.
is the district willing to consider redistricting to even the numbers for student fairness? And
I will let everybody address this question because it is an issue, yes.
I think it would, if we've looked at every other factor, I think that may be something that we might need to discuss.
next, sorry, I started with you, but Mr. Spicer.
My answer is going to be pretty short because redistricting is extremely complicated and involves the movement of a great deal of resources in order to do redistricting to make that happen. So my answer is, if we at all were to consider redistricting to solve this problem, I think we should take our time with that decision and bring in all stakeholders to see if we can make the best decision toward using redistricting to solve that problem.
Reverend Childs.
Well, again, redistricting, not only is it a process that can be difficult on the children, and we just took them through just a few years ago through a redistricting, so I'd hate to see that happen again. I think we've got to try to look at what we've got and see how we can make it work. If we open the Mahar preschool, pre-K program, there are pre-K programs in some of the other buildings that could therefore move to that program, to that building, and we cut down space. And again, I think that as we continue to move along, we have to take a look to see what will be the best thing to do. But I think that redistricting should be the final thing that happens if we can't resolve it in other ways.
Mr. Lamb?
First, I don't remember Nora saying that that was a problem. However, the buildings are to maximum in many of them because of lowering the class size, which is an extremely important, especially in K-3. I don't feel that redistricting would be a great idea right now. I thought the board, under the advisement of the superintendent, moving all the students from one building with their teachers to another building and not splitting students up as happened my first year teaching when I was at Brigham and Tilson, and students were split up all over the district. The students stayed with their friends, they stayed with their teachers, and it became an even better culture in those buildings that the students were added to. We may have to look at where some of our special ed rooms are or things like that and possibly adjust that way, but I would not support redistricting unless it was an absolute last resort.
Thank you. Next question, starting with Mr. Spicer. Recess is extremely limited in our schools. Our children are increasing in their anxiety and fidgetiness. How would you improve recess time in the school schedules? Starting with Mr. Spicer and then Reverend Childs.
That is the question has the answer in it already. To increase recess time, you have to look at all the schedules in all the buildings and see how rescheduling, readjusting the schedule can increase recess time. I'm a firm believer, because I'm a pre-K teacher and because I've been a high school principal. Did I say pre-K teacher? I'm a pre-K principal. But because I was also a high school principal, where they say, well, high school kids don't need to play. Yes, they do. High school children need recess as well. They need a break, they need downtime, they need social time. They need to throw the football wherever they are, but right after they finish their lunch. It's really important to the entire school day. And the answer is in the question. You need to review the school schedules to see how you can readjust certain classes and there are whole group times and schedules, like all children, most of your children have band and choir at the same time. All those issues need to be looked at to increase more recess time, but I'm in favor of it.
Reverend Childs?
Again, I think that recess, of course, is important, and as it already has been said, scheduling is a very complicated thing, and that's why we have the experts in our school district with our superintendents and other administrators. And I think that if it's an issue that is shown to be really a problem, then I think we've got to bring it to our administrators so that they can look at scheduling and see how we can possibly do that.
Mr. Lamb?
It's mainly the problem of 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. The state gives more and more mandates and more requirements. And as they do that, the only way to increase recess time is to increase the length of the school day. Maybe by varying times that teachers begin, having some teachers begin first period, some begin second period. But the schedule is packed full because there are things in it that are required that we are unfunded for, and things are added every day by the state. So And it really, yes, recess time is extremely important. It's part of the socialization of school. It's part of the getting rid of the bullying. However, we need the time to do so. And schedules you can look at, but I believe most of our schedules, Mr. Verge worked very hard on that middle school schedule, and I gotta tell you, he got more into the day than anyone I've ever seen get into the day.
Thank you. Mrs. Shearer.
Yeah, I think recess is important. And I'm, just as a side note, I was very glad to see the furniture that was being considered for the high school were chairs that would rock. So even our high school students could move during class. I think, yes, we have to look at different schedule arrays and rearranging the days so that we can provide more time for students to move. We can also incorporate it in lessons in the classroom and get them up and get them moving and get them engaged and moving around, arrange the lessons so that they can move during the lessons too. It's important that they get up, that they move. I know going to some staff development conferences, it's very hard to sit still for that length of time. So.
The next question, starting with Reverend Childs. Do you believe it is part of the education's role to teach all children basic life skills such as balancing a checkbook, loans, interest, credit, etc.?
Well, again, as they say, the schedule is pretty full, but I do think it's important. One of the things that I see with a lot of children, they don't know how to balance a checkbook. A lot of adults don't. And so I think it's important to teach some basic life principles to our children so that they know how to handle the things that they will have to handle as adults and as people who will be employed and making money. Whether we can get all that into school and get that done is difficult because there's so many required courses that they have to take, but it may be something that can be used as a possible choice that they can take as an extra subject.
Mr. Lamb.
As far as I know, that used to be part of the HCS requirements was to learn those basic life skills. And if we're not teaching them, maybe we need to address, and I know that it's not called HCS anymore, the different districts call them different things. However, maybe that's where we should be addressing those life skills so that students do get out and are able to function in the world as adults.
Mrs. Shearer.
This is kind of ironic because I was just having this conversation with my son the other day, and he said he wished that in high school they had taught him about credit cards and revolving credit and time payments and how to balance a checkbook and on and on and on. And I think, we're looking at, my daughter said the same thing. Kids did have it in middle school, but it wasn't repeated in the high school. And they're encouraged to take things like calculus and, physics. And not that there's anything wrong with those things, but everybody needs to be able to do those simple life skills. I think that's essential. I think in addition to that, we should also be teaching childcare. Most of these people are going to grow up to be parents, and I think it's important. And some parents are not equipped to teach their children that. I know I taught a GED class for a long time, and we had students who were approaching 20, and they would line up just to learn how to, some of them had children, to bathe a baby. So.
Mr. Spicer.
Life economic lessons as part of an economics class in a high school or in a pre-K class to teach the children how to make good choices is vital now. It can be, and these lessons can be incorporated into the regular school day, into other classes. But I also think children should be taught in the schools, and it should be reinforced a couple of other issues that are falling by the wayside, like civics, like voting, like public speaking, like getting involved and participating more. All of these are life's lessons for our future citizens. And we teach our children, like I said, we're heading toward the year 2020. We don't have any citizens anymore that can sit it out. So they all need all of these lessons.
The next question, starting with Mr. Lamb, takes us back to the Maha space. How much space will be left in Maha after district office space in pre-K, and what would you do with it?
I I actually don't know that. The answer to that question depends on how much of that building is actually usable.
You can punt to somebody who might know.
They're actually, the addition that was done in the mid-90s requires only very cursory renovation, paint and new furniture. The kindergarten suite is usable, so right there you have 6 classrooms, which is what we were talking about. The remainder of the building would have to undergo some light, some heavier renovation to provide the office spaces and the boardroom. And of course, there would need to be an elevator. So the answer to your first question is quite a bit of space. The classroom spaces would undergo some renovation, but not massive renovations. Much of what is there in terms of wooden floors and staircases and stuff would be preserved and refinished. And we're not looking to create a money pit. We're looking to repurpose a building that's been closed and provide an opportunity for the district to market a building that is in a much more marketable locale in the Uptown Business District.
So if I'm not mistaken, the question is asking, once you do the office space in the pre-K, is there more space, and what would that space potentially be used for? Or is that a misperception in terms of the amount of space?
I think initially we were considering putting a warehouse there as well, because we do rent a space for warehouse. However, it was deemed impractical because there is not space to turn around the very large trucks that would be delivering it. So.
Does anybody else have some additional insight into the MAR building, or shall we move on to the next question?
Move on.
Okay, next question. Being a part of a school board requires the ability to work cooperatively towards shared goals. Can you tell us a little bit about how your professional and personal attributes lend themselves to teamwork, starting with Mr. Lamb?
Team was what PG Middle School / junior high was about. We were teams, we worked together. I always felt that my music staff was a team. I substitute teach currently only for my team of teachers that I hired in Newburgh. I do not go in for anyone else. They call, they make the arrangements for me to go in for them because they know that I'll go in, I'll hold what they hold to be important, and I will do what they ask to do. I actually teach the class as opposed to babysitting the class as many of the non-certified subs do. Teamwork has 2 ways to go. It is a team. It means that others have to be willing to work with you on things that you disagree with. Anyone that knows me and worked with me would tell you that I'm certainly a team player, and that would be it.
Mrs. Shearer.
Okay, I would have to say that I learned this at my mother's knee. I'm the oldest of 10 children, so I've been a team player since the beginning. When I worked in the district for all of the couple of decades that I worked in the high school, I team taught with a lot of my colleagues in general education, and I continued to work as a team, on the team, with the board since I was elected 6 years ago. I think that it's important to be willing to listen to other people's positions, to be able to articulate and communicate, whatever the decision is finally by the team to whoever you have to convince that you should get the funding or the time or the opportunity. I think it's important to divide the work and be willing to do some of the hard work. It's not, you've all been on committees where one person does all the work or 2 people do all the work and the other people say they were on the committee. But it's important to be willing to do the hard work, not be afraid to get your hands dirty, dig in and actually do it, and reflect on what's been done and adjust it. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is, no one of us is as smart as all of us. I reflect that in my career. I team taught special ed at the Poughkeepsie Middle School. I have also worked with 2 school faculties as a principal, and you learn early on in being a school principal that your goals are not as important as everyone's goals, and playing an effective role in making sure everyone's goals happen makes you a team player. If you are an effective administrator, either you are an effective team player or you're not. And if you're not an effective team player, you're not an effective administrator. Because like I said, all of our goals are more important than any one man or woman's goals.
Reverend Childs.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I enjoy being on this board, is that we've got people that come from different backgrounds, different professions, but when we come together, we have one thing in mind, and that is what can we do that's in the best interest of our children. And to do that, it means that we must be able to hear one another, understand one another. We don't necessarily have to agree on everything, but when a decision is made, it's our decision as a team, and we work to make it happen. Teamwork makes the dream work, and I believe as long as we work and don't care who gets the credit, we can accomplish anything.
Next question, starting with
Did you get the
Mrs.
answer? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, no, please go ahead.
Did we all got it, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Starting with Mrs. Shearer. Would you support and promote more students shadowing professionals in the community?
Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful way to learn. We do have a New Visions program through BOCES where students do just that. As a matter of fact, with our capital project, we also have students who are shadowing on the job site. And they have to go through the OSHA training, of course, first. But I think it's a marvelous opportunity for them to learn the field by shadowing. And I would encourage more of that to be done. I think the more we get out and we advocate for the kids and we convince the community that, you know, the best way to learn is by doing, I think that the more people we can open up to the possibility of having students come and shadow, the better.
Mr. Lamb.
Absolutely. My nephew Zach Burns was one of the students to shadow in the program here at KHS. So many students go to college not knowing what they want. I told my parents when I was in 8th grade, I wanted to go to college, I wanted to major in music education, and that's what I did. And I completed that. All my nieces and nephews have changed their career goals during their time at college. There's no better way of getting a sense of what you really want to do than getting out and seeing what the person really does. So it certainly is an initiative that we should be encouraging as part of their learning process, especially here at the high school, but it can be even done in middle schools as it has been done in other districts.
Reverend Childs.
Absolutely. I remember my youngest son, thought that he wanted to be a lawyer. So we found a lawyer that he could go and be with, and he was able to shadow them, etc. And one thing that he learned is that he didn't want to be a lawyer. And I think that's important to give that opportunity to our youngsters. And as it has already been said, we're doing some of that in the school. We try to see every opportunity that we can provide the kids with an opportunity to see various professions and to be able to shadow. So the building trades that are going on in our school now and the renovation has been an opportunity for children to shadow there. Again, as Nora had said, the New Vision program is certainly a great opportunity to do that also.
Mr. Spicer.
I can tell you, I can show you, or you can do it. Learning by experience is a proven effective educational tool. It's just well known how effective that is. And of course, everybody on any school board would support experiential learning. And I will tell you that in your school district, I attended another school board meeting where there was a presentation done by your children from the high school who took a spectacular trip to Colombia. That's experiential learning. They're not reading about how to be diplomats. They're diplomats. They're attending meetings at the highest level. And from what I understand, they were impressive. So we learned right away that first, your district is already doing it. experiential learning. We need to expand that so that all children can have access to that.
We're coming to the end. I apologize to all of you who wrote questions that weren't answered. I tried to pick diverse questions so that many of your concerns would be covered. As you make your 2-minute closing remarks, maybe you would be willing to say something about testing and parents opting out of testing and the value of the Regents diploma. There's a few questions here that relate to us, to that. Perhaps you can put that into your 2-minute closing remarks. And I will start with Reverend Childs.
Well, again, I thank you for the opportunity to come before you and to seek again another seat on the board for another 3 years. My main reason for running is simple. I believe that every child needs to be able to get an education so that they can change their family tree and be able to have a productive life that will make our country a great place to live. I think that it's important for our children to get an education, and I think that we need to provide every opportunity that we can for them to get the best. So again, if I'm elected, I will continue to work in such a way that it will provide the best opportunity for our children at a price and a cost that is affordable to our community.
Mr. Lamb.
I also would like to thank you, and I chose this district not only to teach in it when I first got out of college, but I chose it to move my family to when my second wife and I got married and we were talking about having children. I wanted my child to go through the Kingston district where I taught at the time. I was very proud of this district and what the teachers do for our children in this district. I don't think all children should be forced to take all the same Regents exams and tests. We still need crafts people, we still need technicians, we still need people that don't have to take all of the sciences. Opting out, my daughter opted out of her 7th grade math test and English test. I actually support parents doing that because the tests did not align with what the teachers taught the children. They were tests that were going to be used to be punitive to teachers. That's not a test that should be even given or considered for children. A test should align with what is taught and should have the values of what should be taught in the school district. And basically, I would say that is a parent's choice to do, and if they really feel the test is not valid for whatever reason, then they should have the opportunity to opt out. That's it.
Mrs. Shearer.
Okay, so once again, I would like to thank everyone for coming out tonight, and I hope you'll all come out on May 16th and bring your families and friends along to vote. I do believe we have a responsible budget. We have crafted a responsible budget, one in a long line of responsible budgets. In terms of the initiatives I would like to see realized, of course, the completion of KHS Capital Project. I've been there since the beginning. Anyone who knows me knows I was a cheerleader from the get-go. And even before I retired, I was cheerleading for other facilities projects that never made it all the way through. I am very excited about this, and I'm looking forward to the opening in this coming fall when people can get in and actually see what's been accomplished. It's beautiful. I would like to see the passage of the Mahar project. I think it's the right way to go. We'd be servicing a population that's heretofore unserved, and I think that the benefit to the district is invaluable. I would like to see also busing all middle school students passed. In terms of testing and opt-outs, I understand why parents kept their children home. I do agree with Mr. Lamb that it was actually crafted to be punitive for teachers, and it was very emotionally charged. I am happy to say that the standards have been revised. I'm sure they will be continued to be revised. In this district alone, we began revising the curriculum very early on, and people need to realize that we did do that. I'm hoping that the number of opt-outs actually decrease as we see the standards are changing, the tests are more in keeping with what's being taught in the classroom. I believe that the Regents exams, in terms of their values, no student who is pursuing a Regents exam, a Regents diploma, gets through the high school without taking Regents exams. They're a reality still, and I think it's important. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Spicer.
I want to thank the district PTA and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and for all of you for coming out. I wish again for all of us to understand that we are 3 years away from the year 2020. We need to envision a school board responsive to families, teachers, and our children. We need forward leadership completely aware of the challenges we face and having the experience to achieve our goals. It is my hope that you can envision me as one of those leaders, and I ask for your support and the chance to serve. On the issue of testing, every district needs high standards for educational achievement, but Pearson educational testing data doesn't drive instruction. It is not diagnostic, and diagnostic meaning once a child takes a test, they can use the data to decide specific needs that that child has to do better in school. It doesn't do that. And even if you use the testing data to decide what children need, what particular support services, well, you've already spent the money on testing. It's going to be a lot more difficult to hire a reading teacher once you've spent the money on a standardized test. So I understand what testing is all about. I don't think it helps. That particular testing anyway. Teachers already know what diagnostic testing is and testing to drive instruction. So thank you for giving me a chance to run for school board, and thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you all.